Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. My name is Glenn, and I'm here with Adam and Colin, and your Overwatch League news starts now.
One shot, one kill. The cavalry's Nerf
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. As always, my name is Glenn, and I'm here with Adam
Hey, I'm Adam.
and Colin.
Hey, how's it going, Glenn? I'm Colin.
Really brave of you to do something a little different in the intro, Colin.
Thanks, I like to step outside the boundaries occasionally.
Super original, by the way, Colin. I really like that intro there.
Thanks.
Adam needs some work.
I tried to do what Colin just did in our last take and just completely stumbled over my words.
You don't need to lie to the audience, buddy. It's okay.
Buddy, why don't I let you borrow my dictionary that you gave me for the holiday season?
I would love that.
You could hear.
All right,
the
guys. Well,
tears.
thank you for listening in. Welcome back if you've been listening before, and welcome to the podcast if you're brand new. Today's episode, we're going to be covering our day 3 and 4 matches from the Overwatch League Preseason. It was a day full of incredible matches, a lot of different things from our day 1 and day 2, and a lot of different matchups that we weren't really expecting to see in the preseason, but we were all taken a little bit by surprise, and we had a lot of entertainment and a lot of amazing plays that we saw from multiple MVPs on different teams that we will be covering today. So before we get too in-depth with schedules and teams and rosters, Colin, why don't you go over maps for day 3 and 4?
All right. So Blizzard didn't really do anything too special for the day 3 and 4 new matchups. We're still going to be dealing with the 2 concrete sets that we've seen. So Dorado, Anubis, Oasis, and Eichenwald, and Junkertown, Lunar Horizon, Ilios, and Numbani, with Ijon Tower being the tiebreaker if it comes to that.
Which we definitely did see on those nail-biting matches there. So Adam, why don't you go over the schedule for day 3 and 4 as well?
Excellent. So we saw on day 3 the San Francisco Shock, who I know that we have shouted out before for playing, doing double duty on day 1. We saw them play their third match on day 3 against the London Spitfire. The Spitfire won handedly 4-0 against the San Francisco Shock. We had the Seoul Dynasty play the Houston Outlaws.
Woo!
And the Seoul Dynasty won 2-1 on score. That fourth game, we saw a draw, which I'm sure we'll touch on a little bit later on in this episode. And we saw the Shanghai Dragons and the Boston Uprising wrap up day 3, with the Uprising beating the Dragons 3-2.
Fantastic. And all 3 of those matches were incredible. And why don't you tell us about day 4 as well, and then we'll go match by match.
Excellent. Day 4 started off with the battle for LA between the Los Angeles Valiant and the Los Angeles Gladiators. The Valiant went on to win that match 3-1. We saw our Florida Mayhem fall to the Dallas Fuel 3-1, and we saw the Seoul Dynasty take care of the New York Excelsior 3-1.
Also another fantastic day of matches, even though the scores were a little bit less close than day 3. And I guess we can go ahead and shout out to the Seoul Dynasty as well for pulling double duty. I mean, they weren't pulling double duty in the way that they had to play 2 matches after each other, but they did end up playing 2 matches, one on day 3 and one on day 4. So shout out to them for stepping up as well and helping out the Overwatch League community. So with schedules done, with maps done, let's get into the individual matches, and let's talk San Francisco Shock against London Spitfire. Now, we did see the Shock play 2 matches on day 1. We saw a lot of great stuff. We saw a lot of great plays. We saw Baby Bay doing some great stuff. And I don't know, I was kind of shocked by the results of this match with a 4-0 sweep against the London Spitfire. And the London Spitfire, no team to sneeze at, but I assumed that it would have been a little bit closer than that.
I would like to point out that I actually had the London Spitfire in my top 3 preseason power rankings. So we saw the Spitfire fall on day 2 to the Los Angeles Gladiators 3-2. But
Which that alone was a little bit surprising for me because I also listed the Spitfire as a bit of a heavy hitter, and I think we saw what we were all expecting out of this match.
yeah, I think that this second performance by the London Spitfire on day 3 was a little bit closer to what we were expecting following the Spitfire.
Absolutely. And like I said, there were some things that we saw on day 3 and 4 that was brand new to us, stuff that we were really excited about. One player in particular was Birdering, playing as Tracer. Some of those plays were absolutely incredible to watch. Watching him play as Farah was also fantastic. So we saw a lot of really great stuff on all the maps. Colin, anything in particular that you really want to point out that you enjoyed seeing from the Spitfire?
From the Spitfire in particular, if we're kind of going map by map, when we get to Dorado, you already touched upon Birdring, but Rascal was also doing some work as Soldier 76.
Yep.
Fantastic hit scanning and just really good holds against the Shock there.
I think, and Adam, agree with me or not, I think with the Shock playing 2 matches, I think the Spitfire had a lot of time to really kind of prepare for them. Seeing that Baby Bay was kind of their leader and lead, eliminator, I think they targeted him a lot throughout the few matches that we saw, and I think this helped. I mean, this was a pretty decent strategy. It definitely worked out for them multiple times.
Yeah, and I think that watching the vlogs that some of the players have put out, you can definitely see while, these players are eating lunch in their training rooms, they're definitely watching videos of the other matches that have happened. So it would not surprise me at all if the London Spitfire really did their homework on the San Francisco Shock and had a really sound game plan going into this match.
Yeah, especially escorting the payload with Rascal switching off onto Genji, just cleaning up along with Birdring. It was hard for the Shock to stop that payload.
Absolutely. I mean, even Fisher had a really great tank play with Reinhardt on our last map in Eichenwald. Throughout his ult and got a 4-person stun and essentially just cleaned up the Shock to pretty much seal in the win. So a lot of great stuff from the Spitfire that we got to see. And while we were rooting on the Shock, they'll definitely have to step it up next time around. So
yeah, I'll say that Reinhardt stun was it was something special.
Absolutely.
See, that was really well timed.
Absolutely, and like I said, immobilizing Sleepy and Baby Bay was the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
So fantastic match there. Our next match was the Seoul Dynasty against the Houston Outlaws, and this was probably the match that you were most fearful of. Am I right, Colin?
Yeah, fearful, definitely, just because the Dynasty has a weight behind them, but I was a little bit more, a little bit more confident after seeing their performance up against the Fuel. And let me tell you, Glenn, the Outlaws did not disappoint in this match at all.
No, not at all. And this is the first time we've seen this, a 2-1 victory by the Seoul, which was a result of Numbani being a draw. So this was a nail-biter match all the way through. We had a great back and forth. The Outlaws were able to win a map, and this was hope for us. So when it came down to Numbani and we hit that draw and that was the end of the game, it was a little heartbreaking, but just a huge sigh of relief. I think we were all kind of holding our breaths at the very, very end there.
Yeah, I will definitely say that as much as we talk about, how entertaining these matches are, this really is. If I was trying to introduce this league to my fiance, or any friends that I have that aren't avid gamers or avid Overwatch players, I think that this would probably be one of the matches that I would show them. Just from a pure entertainment value, it had everything. There were twists and turns and momentum shifts, and and it had drama, and it was a lot of fun to watch.
Well, starting out on Junkertown, like the Dynasty, like Outlaws were able to prevent Dynasty from getting that third point, and it was just insane because when the Outlaws started pushing, they almost got it there. They almost came out the gate swinging.
And we definitely saw a lot of beautiful teamwork from the Dynasty. We saw a lot of great ults coming from the Dynasty, a lot of great Tracer bombs. We saw some Diva bombs. We saw some absolutely incredible stuff from them. But the map that I was absolutely most impressed with, besides Numbani, was Lunar. Holy crap, what a round between the Outlaws and the Dynasty. This really was something incredible, especially with the Outlaws being able to hold it down and win this map early on. They definitely showed that they were not out of the fight.
Absolutely. There was, man, I kind of want to harp upon my my baby boy here that I've been rooting for the entire time, Linkser, with his amazing Widow plays and going back in again into Junkertown. Like he was missing some of his picks, but then he capped their Ana, and just once he got them down, it was just one after the other. Hits his ult, knocks out Fleeta's Widow. It was really spectacular.
And we've been seeing a lot of great stuff from Fleta and Jaehong. I mean, Jaehong as
yeah, Fleta flexing between Widow and Genji, and Jaehong, being Jaehong, one of the best supports in the entire league. Yeah,
it was definitely fantastic to watch, and it was definitely something that we kept seeing throughout the match. And the Outlaws were prepared. Like this was, as I said, very, very close. They were bringing everything they had because they knew who to target. They were constantly targeting Jaehong, knowing what he was going to do, knowing what he meant to the team, and ultimately it wasn't enough. But we saw a lot of great effort coming from the Outlaws.
Yeah, especially at like you said, Lunar, the only one that they were able to solidly secure, and we saw them put up an incredible fight on Numbani.
I mean, they got a team kill on the Dynasty. That was, to me, incredible. I thought that was the turning point of the entire game, and honestly, it was. The Dynasty ended up capturing point B in overtime by literally nothing. The Outlaws stepped off the point for a half a second, and it was enough to get the point to completion. But if it wasn't for that, if they just had kept just a little bit more pressure, they would have easily taken Numbani. It was just, like I said, an incredible nail-biting match to the very, very end.
Yeah, there were a lot of great battles, like Ilios between Clockwork and Munchkin. Always nice to see a Tracer battle going around. Jaehong flying around the map, doing some really neat pharmacy strats with Fleta.
And this is something, and that pharmacy teamwork is something that we'll see later on as well against the New York Excelsior. So we'll get into further detail about them a little later on. But let's keep moving onto the Dragons versus the Uprising, with the Uprising winning 2-3. Now this, I don't know, was a little bit upsetting. Not upsetting. It was a bit of an upset because we thought the Dragons were definitely the team to watch, especially after watching the Seoul Dragon game on day 1 or 2.
Yeah, it was a day 1. That was actually the finale of day 1, and I think that even though they lost 4-0 in that match against the Seoul Dynasty, I think that we thought that their teamwork was exceptional. And that
Daya especially.
Yeah, Daya had a lot of great plays, and I think that what we saw in this Uprising Shanghai Dragons match is that we saw the Uprising really, really take advantage of Daya not being able to hit on some of those plays. And we saw, a lot of Genji, a lot of large team fights that the Uprising was able to come out on top in. I think that really, really turned the tide and caused the Uprising to win.
Absolutely. It was definitely a great match to start off day 4. And like we mentioned, Daya, I mean, if it on Ilios, they were tied 1-1, and it came down to Ruins, and I think Daya really sealed the deal for the team there, as they were able to capture Ruins and win the match, and essentially go into Numbani with a 2-1 lead. And And honestly, like it was great to see the Uprising come back. It was a solid defense that they had on Numbani. It was like we said, this game, there are MVPs, there are players to look out for, and one player can make a difference, but ultimately it is a team game, and we saw a lot of great teamwork from the Uprising on Numbani, and that's what helped them get that tie it to 2-2 and us go into Lijiang Tower for some overtime.
Absolutely. This is a really exciting way to end up day 3. Like, I couldn't imagine, I guess, like a more kind of exciting match. I mean, I'm still really hyped up on Dynasty versus Outlaws, but knowing what the Dragons can do and knowing what the Uprising can do, it was really interesting to see. And I'll fully admit, I was looking for some Dia plays on the same level as his Dynasty matchup.
Adam, how hard were you cheesing as a Zarya occasional player? You were a Zarya main for a little bit, so how hard were you cheesing at the very, very end when we had that Zarya grab
against the wall? The Zarya grab against the wall. That's something that I dream of doing.
Yeah.
And of course, usually when I have my ult with Zarya and it's like a late game situation, I just kind of like panic throw it, hoping that they get sucked into it and that we win. But
it usually sucks them onto the point.
Yeah, it sucks them onto the point, and then they just stay on the point, and then they wipe us, and then we lose the match.
And they all thank you afterwards.
Yeah, they all send me invites. They start.
It really was like a fantastic way to end that game and that match, and to start off the day.
And I think that it just shows the level of creativity and the high gaming IQ that we see from these players to pull something like that off, and to have it be the way that we cap off that first match was just phenomenal.
Absolutely. Any last thoughts on that match, Colin? Before we move on.
Move on to day 4.
No, we're on day 4. We were just doing
the Shanghai Dragons and Uprising.
Buddy, cocaine's a hell of a drug. You need to lay off.
Buddy, they closed day 3.
Hey, Glenn.
What?
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Yeah,
because day 4 started off with the battle for LA.
Yeah, I tried
just
to
like the movie.
Drop a subtle mention there.
Oh, man.
But,
That's
it's
perfect.
all right, pal. It's all right.
I really flubbed it up, didn't I, guys?
We can move on.
That's fine, buddy. I messed up my intro, so.
Yeah. So, final thoughts on this match. The Shanghai Dragons aren't really going to be going into the main season looking too pretty with these 2 losses here. But on the other hand, our Golden Boys, the Mayhem, are in a similar situation. But I have so much faith that the Dragons can kind of pull themselves up, and if they just work on their teamwork a little bit and kind of getting that flow down, they'll be in a good spot.
So, Colin, looking at these matches in day 3, if you had to pick an MVP, someone from these 3 matches that you think really stood out, who would you choose?
That's pretty loaded because my heart goes with Linkser just because Outlaws are my home. But if we're really talking here, I'm gonna go Linkser. Linkser was really cool.
What a difficult decision.
Very clearly no homerism in that pick.
Yeah, no.
How about you, Glenn? If you had to choose an MVP, who are you going with for day 3?
Honestly, I'd have to go with Fleta on the Dynasty. I mean, I love Jae-Hung on the Dynasty as well, and that some of those Moira plays that he was pulling out were incredible.
Spinning in the circle on Horizon. Oh.
Yeah, they were great, and honestly, we saw a lot of great stuff throughout all of day 3. I mean, we had a lot of stuff from Stryker, we had a lot of stuff from Shaz, we had a lot of incredible stuff from Silk Thread, but in the end, I think from day 3, Feta was he changed the game. He was the single player that changed the game for the Dynasty, and he was the one to look out for.
I would have to agree with you, Glenn. I think if I was choosing an MVP, I think Fleta is probably my choice as well. He made a lot of great plays.
Absolutely, and don't get me wrong. I think Silk Thread kind of ties him because that last match,
he was on fire that whole match.
So much incredible Genji play, which is not an easy character to play or to even really be a part of a cohesive team sometimes. It's really hard to see that, but it was fantastic to see. So Fleta's still Fleta.
If I were to make a non-extremely biased choice, it'd probably be Fleta as well. But
way to jump on the bandwagon, Colin.
No. I locked my choice in. Linkzer would 1v1 Fleta and walk away shining every time.
Choo.
All aboard the Fleta train.
Okay, well, with all that said, now let's get into day 4.
There you
Battle
go.
for LA, baby.
Seems
Adam.
the pocket calendar I bought you is doing some really good work.
Oh, buddy, you bought him a pocket calendar?
Yeah, to go along with your dictionary.
That's great. He's going to have a whole library soon.
You guys are so supportive. Day 4, Adam, talk to us about the Battle of LA.
So both of these teams are from LA.
Yes.
Thus the battle for LA. No, we had the Valiant, we had the Gladiators. So eventually, the Valiant took this game 3-1. I think that we had the Valiant really set the tone. They started off extremely strong on Dorado. They really held the Gladiators. We saw a lot of really good diva plays from Envy. I think what Envy was able to do was disrupt the Gladiators' game plan. I think he was able to drop in on them, kind of push them away, and kind of pick the fights that they wanted to pick. So I think that he really set the tone. I think moving forward, Anubis, we had Silk Thread as Genji. He did a great job of shutting down the Gladiators, and I think that was probably what sealed the deal for Game 2 as well. Oasis, we had a Far Mercy fight, which was, it's so fun watching 4 players completely dedicated to one fight.
So hype.
It was so much fun. And I think that what we saw between these two teams is I think we saw the Valiant really play as a cohesive unit. In fact, in times they were pushing the Gladiators back to their spawn. So I think we saw a lot of great communication there. And I think that kept the Gladiators on their back heels for a lot of the matches, which I think was the difference here.
Colin?
Hi.
Thoughts?
Well, a lot of what Adam said really stands out. But if we're looking at like specific plays and just specifics in general, hydration pulled out a really, really good Genji. Shaz was incredible on that support, especially Zenyatta. That finale, finale on Eichenwald was, I don't know, super, super impressive for me to watch. You mentioned Silk Thread earlier.
Oh yeah, I've messed that up. He was my MVP for day 4, but if I had to choose an overall MVP for day 3 and 4, it was Fleta. But
Okay.
Silk
Yes.
Thread is my day 4 MVP.
But you still
Days so
mentioned Silk Thread, and
Yes,
I'll
I did.
say that you did not mention him without merit, because he was incredible as Soldier.
Yeah, he was absolutely incredible with Soldier, and incredible with Farah as well. That Farah fight that we saw between him and Surefour, which is something that we saw throughout the entire match. Him and Surefour kind of going at it, and
that was honestly the most entertaining aspect to me.
Absolutely.
Like that kind of rivalry there.
And truthfully, this is what kind of won them the game. They know what Surefour and Chaz are capable of, and how pivotal they are to the Gladiators' defense and offense, and they were able to target them to effectively keep them down, effectively work around them, work through them, and that's what sealed it for me. I honestly think that the Valiant had an incredible defense, and they were able to capitalize on a lot of great opportunities.
And honestly, like, along with that, Soon had an extremely clutch pulse bomb at the end of Eichenwald that really clinched that victory for them. And it was honestly really surprising to me because Asher, like, when we see this level of play, usually ults aren't that big of a problem for Tracers because they're able to time their recalls and everything. But Soon just threw that pulse bomb, and I guess Asher froze up in the moment where you do not freeze up at all, and wasn't able to recall in time, and that was super surprising to me. Like,
Yeah, it was an absolute battle for LA, and for now, the Valiant came up on top as the LA winners, but we are for sure going to see them play again during the season, and I'm really excited to see what the rematch is going to look like.
Don't you mean instead of we're sure for going to see them?
That's an Adam joke, Colin.
But
You
Colin
need to
said it.
file that away. File it away.
Somewhere deep inside.
Tin sure for.
I have never heard you say something so. Adam, what's the dictionary word I'm looking for?
You're not thinking logic, soul. Speaking of logics, the Florida Mayhem and Dallas Fuel played in the second match
You're the sole reason this podcast keeps moving, Adam.
of day 4. And we unfortunately saw our Florida boys fall to the Dallas Fuel. Glenn,
Yeah.
what do you think about this match?
Honestly, I wasn't really surprised. I know the Mayhem has a lot that they can bring and they're gonna bring, and they did bring. They won that first map right off the bat, and I was really, really hopeful. But Dallas, I think, had a little bit more cohesion this game. Against the Outlaws, we saw a lot of mistakes, and this time we did not see as many. They definitely capitalized on a lot of great plays, and it wasn't as close, to be honest with you, as I was wanting it to be or expecting it to be, and we unfortunately couldn't cap it out. So the Florida Mayhem did lose against the Fuel 3-1,
Yeah,
with
and-
noticeable plays by Tavik with that Widow on Junkertown. Absolutely one of the greatest things I've seen. But from there, we saw a lot of great plays from Seagull and Lunar Colony. We saw a lot of great plays on Ilios from Chips, and then Numbani. The Fuel pretty much dead stopped the Mayhem on the point with literally 40 seconds to go. I mean, it was pretty close on Numbani, but honestly, it was a Fuel game all the way.
Yeah, and I mean, we obviously go way more in depth with this match on our Mayhem Monday episode
Absolutely.
covering it. However, I'm gonna throw some fuel on the fire here, and I'm just gonna come out and say that without getting into specifics, I think we really need to see the Mayhem step it up going into this new season.
You really know how to hook people into you speaking with your jokes, buddy.
Seagull.
Nice. A+, would recommend.
Thanks.
10 out of 10, favorite podcaster.
All right, moving on.
Podcaster of the Year award.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, in an all serious note, if you guys do want to listen to us go more in depth on the Mayhem Fuel game, please listen to our Mayhem Monday episode. We go, I think it was like 35 minutes, 40 minutes, talking strategy, talking rosters, talking strength, weaknesses, everything that you want to hear about our Florida Mayhem boys.
You may him even love it.
And I'm done with it now.
Are we voting him off the island
I
already?
think we are.
Well, you
8
can't-
episodes in.
You can't shut down a dynasty like this one. I really Excelsior at these kind of things. Speaking of dynasty and Excelsior, let's talk about the last match of day 4.
But you know what? Why don't you start us off on this one?
Me?
Nothing to say?
Oh, I don't know. I don't got the soul. Let's... All right, but honestly,
Nate Nanzer, if you need anyone to come up with puns throughout the season, through the commentary, Colin's your guy.
If you really wanted a pun writing team, you got 3 great ex-skippers, waiting for you to call, buddy.
So, talking about day 4, final match, Seoul Dynasty versus New York Excelsior. This is the second time in these 2 days that we've seen Seoul step up and kind of do their third match. They are one of only 2 teams that has done 3 matches this weekend. And if there was any team that we wanted to watch play 3 times, I would definitely list Seoul as one of them.
Absolutely.
And I tell you, they did not go easy on the Excelsior.
No, not at all.
However, the Excelsior didn't go down, without a fight. We saw that excellent shutdown against Jaehong on Junkertown. We saw some really great Widow battles between Fleta and Pine, and
Which we
Just-
were praising Pine the other day for his
Oh,
Widow
yeah.
plays, and unfortunately we got to see Fleta play a lot of Widow as well earlier in the day on day 3. And honestly, if we were gonna pick 2 Widows to go up against each other, this was what I wanted to see. It was fantastic.
absolutely. And Fleta just carried over, especially in Ilios and Nimbani. And targeting Jaehong also became kind of a running thing throughout this because I'm sure everyone in the league is aware that if Jaehong's out there and he's supporting, which he usually is, you have to shut him down because he's just going to literally do everything within his ability to keep his entire team
Absolutely.
from dying the entire match.
Absolutely. And as a big Jaehong fan, I think that targeting him is definitely the smart thing by the Excelsior, but the Soul has another healer. I mean, they have Toby. Toby is also fantastic support. And when Jaehong was not able to capitalize and come back from being targeted, sometimes he would get the kills and he would just keep moving on. But whenever he couldn't do it, Toby was always there to pick up slack. And that's what essentially, in my eyes, sealed the deal for the Dynasty.
And I think what we talked about the last episode during the Mayhem Monday was about healers and how they're like the offensive line. And the less that we are talking about them during the match, it probably means that they're doing their job the correct way. So we weren't singing Toby's praises as we were watching this match. I mean, we were obviously yelling and screaming about the Fleta Pine, Widowmaker fights that we were seeing everywhere and all of the great picks. But Toby was out there healing, and he was healing where he could, staying alive and reviving people, which is all you could want from a healer.
No,
Absolutely.
I mean,
Mercy and Moira were definitely his 2 go-tos, and when he pulled that Moira out, he absolutely made himself known to us.
yeah, Toby's definitely, while Jae Young has kind of the publicity of being the extremely strong support, I think you guys have kind of skirted around it, but I'm definitely going to say that Toby is going to be their secret weapon here, because we've been singing the praises of Fleta, but we saw multiple times that whenever Pine ends up taking out Fleta, Toby is right there with the res, bringing Fleta back into the game and keeping those snipes coming as long as possible.
It was incredible to see, again, the support being, the foundation that the Soul Dynasty is built upon, because while the support is able to get those kills and be able to support at the same time, they have 2 incredible guys that are able to pick up the slack whenever needed. Adam or Colin, do you guys have any final thoughts on this Dynasty Excelsior match?
Bunny, he's always really fun to watch, especially as Tracer.
Absolutely. Adam?
I really liked watching the versatility of Jaehong and Toby playing with one another. So, I mean, we saw Toby play Mercy, we saw Toby play Lucio, we saw Jaehong flex as well with his support. So I think it just shows how versatile the Soul Dynasty really are going to be throughout the year, and I think that they're going to be able to switch off to what they need, and I think that's going to make them really scary throughout the season.
Absolutely. So I already said who was my MVP of the day, which was Silk Thread. Do you guys have an MVP for day 4?
For day 4, I'm you know what? I'm gonna give it to our boy Toby. We've been singing the praises for. He's out there. He's a little bit hidden on the back lines under the public shadow of Jaehong, but he was doing some work as Mercy, and he was super versatile as Lucio zipping around.
He was definitely a pivotal point for the Soul.
And I'll always say that a strong support is going to be the brick and mortar of a successful team. So
I'm going to have to agree with you. I think I saw the most switching around from Toby, and he played a great Mercy, played a great Lucio, played a great Ana. He was everything he needed for his team, and probably what they didn't know they needed. So he held that team together, and I think that his support was what really sealed the deal for the Dynasty.
Fantastic. Do you guys have an MVP overall from day 3 and 4?
overall,
Yeah, sure. Let's do an overall MVP. Mine still remains Fleta.
yeah, it still remains Fleta.
I'm also going to say Fleta.
Well, I guess that was easy.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic. So we covered day 3. We covered day 4. If you guys want to hear us talk more about the Dallas, Florida game, please listen to the Mayhem Monday episode. And if you want to hear us talk more, just shoot us a message on our social media. So, Adam, why don't you talk about our social media?
Hey, so you can find us on Twitter at OW League Now. The OW stands for Overwatch.
And the now stands for now.
You can also find us at Overwatch League Now at gmail.com. And we are also on iTunes, so feel free to like, comment, subscribe, leave us a review. Tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like. We're new to this whole podcasting game, so we are hoping to get better as time goes on.
And Adam, I do believe that we just started a MySpace page. Am I correct?
No, but you can find us on Yelp, reviewing all of the finest wining and dinings in all of Florida.
Our physical.
Mostly just Orlando.
Yeah, mostly just Orlando.
A warning, though, if you do try to track down the physical address listed there, it is just in a dumpster behind a Denny's. So we don't encourage anyone trying to find us.
Yeah, please don't go to our Denny's dumpster.
It's ours.
That's a great way to end. I think we don't need to talk anymore. We'll just end it here. Cut.
On the payload.
I'm done recording.
Until next time, I'm Adam. Stay on the payload and away from the Denny's dumpster.
Please.
I'm Glenn, and then Colin, who are you?
I'm the dumpster dude, Colin.
Colin Dumpster Dude.
Stay on the dumpster.
Thanks for listening.
One shot, one kill. Cheers, love! The cavalry's here! Nerf this! Heroes never die.